Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome back to a brand new video. I hope everybody's 2024 has started off amazingly. Uh, I want to start recording more. I bought a new badass microphone, and you might be wondering, why do you still sound awful? Well, that's kind of a two-part answer. For one, I'm kind of sick at the moment, so there's that. For two, that new microphone I bought, I don't know how to work it. So I'm actually using the mic that's built into my webcam, which I didn't even know that was a thing. I guess I needed an extra part that I do not have. So there's that. As you can tell, we are going to be predicting the 2024 playoffs. I feel like, I always do this and I'm always wrong. So, I'll give my reasoning a little bit. I'm kind of going to speed through it a little bit. Uh, Starting off in the AFC, I'm really excited for the entire playoff slate this week. There's not really I mean, there's some the Eagles and Bucks is a stinker of a game. Like that sucks. Having to watch that is awful. I don't think the Bucks are very good at football, and the Eagles have been atrocious the last 6 weeks. So having to watch that game sucks. But other than that, these are really good matchups. I mean, Jordan Love has surprised me in Green Bay. And the Cowboys have been really good, so we'll see if they can actually win a playoff game that means something because it's been a while. Uh, Obviously, Rams, Lions, Matthew Stafford going back to Detroit. That is a huge, huge, huge game going on over there. The Browns have been amazing, and C.J. Stroud has been one of the most fun quarterbacks to watch in football. So that's a great matchup. The Dolphins and Chiefs. The Chiefs, honestly, I don't think have been amazing this year. Whereas the Dolphins, they have at times, but they've also kind of fallen apart at times. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there. Bills Steelers, I think, could be more interesting than most people think, even though I am a Steelers fan. So I think the Eagles Bucks and Bills Steelers are probably the least interesting games to watch. But it's supposed to be a snow game in Buffalo, from what I understand, so that should be fun. That's at least fun to watch. We're gonna start off in the AFC. Browns Texans, neither of them have really been here before. The Browns have won more recently. CJ Stroud has been amazing, but a rookie quarterback going against the Browns defense doesn't look like something that is going to go over too well, even if it is CJ Stroud. The Browns have been playing extremely good football. And, I mean, as long as Joe Flacco can keep the ball, you know, in his own team's hands, I think the Browns probably take this one, even though I do like the Texans and they're obviously going in the right direction. I just think the Browns are too hot right now to pick against. Uh, Chiefs Dolphins is a very interesting game. Uh, I don't like this to me is kind of more of a toss up than the last one. I mean, Kansas City's offense isn't as good as it has been. Their receivers aren't amazing. They lose games fairly consistently, but also the Dolphins, I mean, they just got blown out by 40 the other night. Like, the Dolphins have some games where they just forget to play football. So it's going to be very interesting. Again, I mean, if Tua can keep the ball in his own team's hands, they could be very good. Uh, Plus, I mean, if you're Kansas City, who covers those wide receivers, Which is why I'm actually going to pick Miami to pull the shocker and upset Kansas City. Even though they haven't been very good the last couple weeks, I just think I like the matchup. Actually, I'm going to pick against them. I changed my mind. I forgot it's supposed to be 0 degrees in Kansas City, and I don't think the Dolphins are a team that's overly prepared for 0 degrees in Kansas City. So again, it's a toss-up, home field advantage, I guess. It could really go either way, and again, obviously, you guys can tell I'm struggling to actually iron down a pick for it because the Dolphins have struggled lately, but the Chiefs haven't been the best team in football like they have been in other years. But they have been here before, and the Dolphins, it's been a minute, so we'll go with Kansas City. Steelers Bills. I'll pick the Bills. I do think it's probably going to be a closer game than most people think. The Bills have not been phenomenal this year, in my opinion. They haven't. Their run defense hasn't been anything that's been great, and the Steelers run very well. If the Steelers cannot keep the ball in their own hands, don't fumble, don't throw picks, and just run the football and continue to do good like they have in that respect, I think they could pull a shocker and win this game. But I don't think they're going to. I mean, the Bills, like, if you look at their schedule, they've won games close against bad opponents. But you're looking at a Steelers team that lost back-to-back weeks to 2-10 teams. So, probably going to roll with Buffalo there. On the other side, Eagles Bucks is a very interesting game because the Eagles have been atrocious, but the Buccaneers also haven't been great through stretches of this year. So where do you go? Obviously the Eagles have been here before. They've won games in this situation. Before they went on that slide of 1-5, they were a very good football team. So I mean, they might have had to slip into the playoffs, but it doesn't really matter how you get there as long as you're there. So if they can pull it together, they could win this game. Baker Mayfield has had, in my opinion, a very good season. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see the Buccaneers pull one out here, especially with how bad the Eagles have been lately. It's a really good slate. Like all these games are, in my opinion, at least, extremely close. Uh, I think I think I'm gonna pick the Eagles to finally snap their streak of 1-6, though, just because I don't know if this Buccaneers team is ready to win a playoff game yet. And I think the Eagles, even if they were sliding, I think they have enough. Their roster is good enough to pick up a win in Tampa Bay in the playoffs. Now going down to the Rams and Lions. Now the Lions have been good, but again, they're another team that I think has kind of faltered lately. The Rams have been very solid, especially the last couple weeks. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure they beat the 49ers last week. They have a win against, I think, Dallas the week before or something. I'm going to pick the Rams to beat the Lions. A little bit more experience on that roster in the playoffs, I feel like, as well. I mean, I guess Jared Goff did go to a Super Bowl. But I mean, they Matthew Stafford won a Super Bowl with the Rams. So I feel like overall, they're the better team. Uh, they've played, like, the Rams season is super underrated. Just, they've played super close with big opponents the entire year. Like, they've beaten playoff opponents, like, back to back to back to back weeks in order to get here, pretty much. So I think the Rams go into Detroit and win that game. Now, Packers, Cowboys. As much as I like the Packers and their roster, the Cowboys have just played very good football. Uh, I don't think the Packers have enough experience, especially, Jordan Love's never been here before. The Cowboys are good enough to win a wild card game most weeks or most years. So I think I'm just gonna go with that and not overthink it. Now, moving on to the divisional round. Sorry, I just found this website really quickly. Never used it before, so. Now, going on to the divisional in this proposed scenario, Chiefs and Bills, which, I mean, we've seen that before. Browns and Ravens would be very fascinating. On the other side, Eagles and Cowboys. I mean, again, I think the Eagles are probably the worst team in the playoffs. So they just get lucky and they run into the Buccaneers. Uh, Rams and 49ers. So going to the AFC, I mean, like I said, the Chiefs and Bills are two teams that I don't think are quite what they have been in past years, honestly. I think the Bills are a better football team. Uh, I mean, I like the Bills' defense a little bit more than I like Kansas City's. It's going to be traveling through Buffalo. Especially, like, Kansas City's offense isn't anything that special when you run it down. Travis Kelce hasn't been the same. They lack an elite running back, really. They don't have, like, a serious top 15 wide receiver or anything. So I think the Buffalo Bills win this one. Even though the thing is, like, with Kansas City's playoff experience, they've won in this situation before. The Bills haven't. So I picked the Bills last year, and they proceeded to get demolished. So we'll see how that goes. Now, the Browns and Ravens is a game that I would be very fascinated about. Obviously, as division rivals, they've played each other twice this year. One time the Browns barely lost, and the other time the Browns barely won. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. This is another toss-up for me, honestly. The Browns have been very good. Joe Flacco has been inconsistent at parts, but the Browns' defense is super good. Last time they played, they were able to narrowly beat the Ravens. It's one of the Ravens' few losses of the year, including two more to the Steelers. So there's that. Um, but who wins? Originally, before I started recording, I came in this situation and I picked the Browns, just because. I mean, they could. Like they did it before. They could do it again. Uh, Joe Flacco's been here before. Lamar Jackson hasn't proven that he can win a divisional game yet. But I think with the Ravens, I'm gonna pick them here. It's a toss-up, but it's going through Baltimore. They have a ton of offensive weapons at their disposal. Lamar, it's gonna depend on Lamar. If Lamar can have a good game, they can win. But it could really go either way. It's probably gonna be a high-scoring game. It was the first two times. But I'm gonna go through Baltimore. On the other side, I think this is a blowout. I don't think it's even close. You can beat Tampa Bay, but that team's not going to beat Dallas. It's just not going to happen. Even though Dallas hasn't won a divisional game since 1991, I think this could be their time to finally get one. Rams 49ers, I just don't know if anybody beats the 49ers. Originally, this is exactly what I picked, and then I went back and kind of reevaluated the Browns because it seems really unlikely that we get a 1v2 conference championship. But that's kind of the way that things have played out here, and I don't think anybody's going to upset. Like, the Rams probably don't upset the 49ers. I don't see it happening. The Eagles are not going to beat the Cowboys. These two games are both toss-ups, but I don't know. Like, it's just hard for me. Like, I hate, anytime you pick the favorite over and over and over again, like, eventually you're going to be wrong and you're going to feel stupid. But that's how this one played out, I guess. Again, like, the Browns could definitely do it. I just don't know. I don't know if I can go back on my word. Like, this is exactly what I did last time. It's like, do the Ravens have enough offensive firepower to contend with the Browns' defense? I really do like the Browns. I think the Browns could seriously go on a deep run this year. And they have Lamar, but outside of Lamar, do they have enough to contend with the Browns' defense? I'm going to go with the Browns. I know I probably shouldn't change my word midway through, but the more I think about it, the less I like Baltimore in the playoffs right now. Again, I actually like the Browns are a very, very good football team. They started off really rocky, but there's not a team in the playoffs that wants to play Cleveland right now. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Cleveland, and we'll go like this to the conference championship, which would set up a very interesting conference championship. It would guarantee that somebody's in the playoffs that has never won one before, as the Bills and Browns both have not. And then on the other side, you have two perennial Super Bowl teams. So it's very interesting. And both of them, I mean, the 49ers had it pretty recently. But the Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl in very long, since 1991. So, starting off in the AFC, the Browns and Bills. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of the Bills. I don't think the Bills have been phenomenal the last, especially through the middle stretch of the season. They weren't very good. And like I said, I'm big on the Browns. I mean, unlike other teams, though, I do think the Bills have the offensive firepower to match the Browns' defense. And the Bills have a defense that's good enough to stop Cleveland. Because Cleveland doesn't have a ton going for them either if you really delve into it. So, where do you go? I think this would probably, contrary to the Ravens game, be a pretty low-scoring affair. I think both of these teams certainly have weaknesses. Like I said, the Bills haven't been amazing in the run defense, but again, you're relying on Kareem Hunt. So, I don't know how you feel about that. Um, I'm actually going to go with Cleveland. Like I said, the Bills have played decently well, but I don't think they're an amazing team top to bottom. And Cleveland's been one of the hottest teams the last stretch of the season. And I think their defense is good enough to outlast Buffalo, as controversial as that will be. On the other side, I think it's going to be the 49ers. They are a very hard team to beat. Like, the 49ers are very, very good. The Cowboys, I mean, again, haven't been to this game since 1991. Brock Purdy hasn't had playoff experience, really, so who knows. But I just think their offense and defense combined are just better. So, especially going through San Francisco, which leaves us to the Super Bowl, which would be a very wacky situation. Did my thing just freeze? What just happened? Why did it do that? Oh, okay, it won't let me click. Well, I mean, I don't really need to click on it. It would be the Browns and the 49ers. Uh, Again, I like the Browns. I think they're one of the hottest teams in football, and I don't really like the Bills that much. So that's why I picked them. However, running into San Francisco, I think San Francisco is probably going to run away with it. And it would be a San Francisco Super Bowl. But Cleveland would have the opportunity to fight for their first, and I think their defense is good enough to put up a fight. But I think the 49ers should be the heavy favorites to win the Super Bowl. I just don't know who beats them. Anyways, I'm sorry for the awful mic quality. I will upload again someday, I think, I hope. I will get into draft content as soon as this year decides to conclude. I really like this draft class, actually. Frank Gore Jr. is in it, which is cool. It's my favorite QB class I think I've ever seen. It's a really, really, really deep QB class. A lot of names that are super familiar. So that's probably the future plans. I'll start doing gaming content, stuff like that. I just need to get my microphone working. So once this part that I had to fucking order comes in, it's the third part I've had to order for it too. But once it comes in, I'll start recording more. Uh, Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Expect more in the future, and I will see you guys in the next video that I make.